Oh, I'll get an assistant because they'll hold me
Yep.
accountable. Well, that's not their job. That's your
Yeah,
job.
that's
Like
good.
I'll get a team member because then they'll remember. Well, yeah, but how much is you not stepping into what you're afraid of? Like, I don't think any of us are negligent, bad people. I think at the root of most of our dysfunction is this fear and insecurity around whatever it is that is is causing the actual dysfunction. So, I don't know what that looked like for me back in November. I'm sure it was like 10 limiting beliefs, but it's like that's what I needed to address. It wasn't the website, it wasn't the post, it wasn't the work. I can get in and do the work. What is keeping me from telling people about what I can do?
Yeah.
That's the root cause that I needed
Yeah.
to have a conversation with myself about. And I was breaking trust when I said I was going to do something and then not do it. I'm eroding trust with myself. And so you just have to start somewhere. So it's me and my glass of water every morning now.
I love that so much. And I think about like the brilliance factor of understanding like our own individual abilities, right? Like understanding that and actually having a conversation and doing the work around your zone of genius so that you are actually shining brightest, because there are elements of yourself that like we either aren't sharing and therefore it doesn't have an opportunity to ever be buffed out and shine because we're not even putting it into action, or we're constantly sitting in this one side of ourself. And there's a whole other element that needs to be focused on. So
Mm,
realizing that we're a 360 human, realizing that there is more elements to ourselves that maybe we're not even tapping into that we should be because we've never seen it happen, or we've never thought about bringing it to life in that specific context. And so even tomorrow, as I was talking about that concept of mompreneurship that I'm sharing tomorrow, I think a lot of people get inundated as women or men, even as they carry the father role and the husband role no different than we do as a mother and a wife. But there's certain societal expectations alongside that we are expected to show up and cook dinner every night, or we're expected to be the ones getting the kids dressed and putting them on the bus or taking them to school. And it's like, where did those expectations derive from? And why are
mm,
you keeping them as something that's keeping you in a straitjacket in those specific roles? And when we can
mm,
actually break free and become, I've recognized that one of my unique talents, and I do this every day through business, is to help people say yes to the bigger passions or the bigger ideas or the bigger dreams on their life. And so why can I not, as a mother, start to do that now with my children? Why do I
mm,
have to wait for them to be, a young bucks in the world of entrepreneurship? They're young bucks
mm,
now at 7 and 8. And so I've been starting to talk to them about like, what are they passionate about? What do they think they can serve the world with right now? And we started erecting businesses together right now, because why wait? Right. And
mm,
so, how can what we're doing in the professional setting or in our marriage life or as a mother then be added into the different parts of who we are in business or who we are in those other hats? I just think that there's a lot to that specific example, and understanding that
mm.
you don't have to do the one thing and the one thing, but actually all the things in all the places, not as a sense of overwhelm and not as a sense of further task, but just exploring, I think more is what
Mhm.
it's about.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that when I mean, if you have a spouse, I think when you come together and you're like, "Hey, we need to be really clear about, like, this these are the tasks that we have to do. These are the things that we get to do." And we find, like, "Okay, you're really amazing at this." Is that, like, the gender stereotypical role that does this?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, it's
not,
good.
but we have an agreement in our home that, like, you're just way better at it than me, so who
It's
cares who
good.
does it,
Yeah, it's so good.
Um, and I think in terms of our kids, like, man, they watch everything we do. It's so crazy. Like, I'll be working and my well, she's almost 4, but she has this little fake laptop and she's sitting there and she's like, "Mom, I'm working." And
So
I'm
cute.
like, you it's so funny because if I did something else, well, when I used to work at the hospital, I was like in a admin role, but they think I was a doctor and so I don't correct them. We drive
Prophetic,
by.
prophetic.
So they're like, but if they saw me come home in scrubs every day, that's what they're playing is doctor. And so they watch everything we do. So absolutely, like, invite them in, let them be in the midst of the conversation. Like, hey, why are you working late at night? Why are you working on a Saturday? Well, because the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, we had the freedom as entrepreneurs to go do, the park and ice cream. Like,
I love
that's not this. We do this because we also get to do this. And
Yeah,
so
good.
they understand, like, they know what the word entrepreneur means. Like, it's a big one and we practice saying it, but this is what the conversation we're having in our home. And so, my 8-year-old, she's like, well, I want to do some chores to make some money. And I'm like, well, I thought about it. And then my husband was like, or you love to do art. Why don't you make some crafts and then we'll sell your crafts because this is what you love to do. Don't you think that makes a lot more sense than like work, like trading your like time for
Yeah.
dollars?
Wow,
So we're
so
having these
good.
conversations all the
Yes.
time. I love it. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny. We are very much about affirmations. And I think for somebody listening who either doesn't have little beings around them all the time or even a significant other, it's this recognition that, like, if you're looking to serve the world, ask the world what they receive from you, right? It goes all the way back full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, is like, how do you show up to serve? How are people receiving from you today? What's that gift? What's that medicine? And then actually applying it. And when you have doubt, when you have fear, get reminded, right? Like, lean into the people who love you and the people who see you and know you, and ask. So just the other day, we were like all paused. We were in the middle of playing like cards and taking care of the dogs and all this. And Gary sits down on the floor and he's like, hey, let's everybody go around and give affirmations to one another. What do you love about that person? What are they good at? And so making eye contact is the hardest thing for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they're not used to saying something so kind and actually having to process something of not just in the moment what you're good at, but like as a whole, as a human, what are you good at? And to hear the little things that they were saying, the reason I brought this up is because my daughter, her affirmation to me often is, you're good at entrepreneuring.
Oh, I love it.
I don't correct her because it's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, thank you, baby. But like, teaching them, what does that mean? And you're good at entrepreneuring too, right? And so it's really fun to like make these little practices, not just something that happens as you raise tiny humans, but as you raise yourself, right? Like, treat yourself well, get those affirmations from people. It was interesting. As a group of adults at the podcasting retreat, everyone was writing down on sticky notes what their brand representation looked like, whether it was a color, whether it was a feeling. We know that brand is what people say about you when you leave the room, not just your logo or font type. And so I gave them stacks of sticky notes and I said, I want you to use every single one. Well, I didn't count out how many everybody had. I just kind of like peeled back the sticky notes and placed it in the thing. And I'm watching people, and some people are done and they have like 15. And then there's this one guy, Anthony Hart, who is Morgan, Morgan's husband.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, I think I had way more than everybody else. He's like struggling, trying to affirm himself or call out what his persona is. And instead of having everybody go around the circle and tell me what they wrote down, I said, okay, well, now you're in a room with 8 strangers. And for the most part, all of them didn't know each other. I would say maybe half and half. And we're going to go around and we're going to let, with just the hour-and-a-half impression that you've given them since you've met them, affirm you and see if what you wrote down is the brand that you believe yourself to have. Totally off the cuff made this up, right? It wasn't the activity at all. It was just like, felt prompted to say, hey, don't talk about yourself. Let's let somebody else love on you for a minute.
Yeah.
And so to see these little sticky notes be picked up as they were getting these words of affirmation from seemingly strangers was just this beautiful representation and reminder of the energy we bring to a room, the natural gifts and talents that we have, and the way that we are giving people medicine even without trying, right? This is what activating a business can look like. It can be effortless and fun and a part of who you are. And then we can create cool language and you can come in and build up the dreams and the process road mapping from there. But I just felt led to share it. So I think it'd be a fun activity even for you with like team exercises and team building that you do.